I want to welcome all of you, um, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, little leaguers, both young and more mature, to tonight's festivities. Um, I could also say this, since it is kind of a little league thing and we're talking baseball. Those of you that would remember Yogi Berra, there are yogiisms, and I don't think he said this, but this kind of sounds good to me. To say the same thing differently sounds like a yogiism. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rich Stokes Little League Complex. Okay, for those of you that don't know me, and there might be a few, my name is Ron Hunterdoss. I will be the moderator. And there'll be a couple reasons why I won't talk very long. Because one is because we have several other people that need to talk that have more important things to say probably than I do. And the other thing is that if you don't have anything nice to say about somebody, don't say anything. Okay, so to the script. When Rich came to Fairfield in Parsons College in 1963, I gotta believe that he probably wasn't overly impressed, partly because of the town's size, would be my guess. Uh, and the other reason would be the slower pace of life that we have here in Fairfield, Iowa, versus out east where he came from. So, thought his stay would be kind of short, but here we are, 60 years later, 48 of them involving this little league, and I don't know if he started. There was just one field. I'm not sure. Couldn't have been more than two.
I'm not telling you.
You're not telling me. Well, we already know how old you are. So, anyway, I'm sure he didn't think he was going to be here this long, but here we are, that much later, and he's a fixture in Fairfield, Iowa. So, thanks for staying, Rich. Um, so, a couple things about Rich that people probably already know. Number one, that maybe you don't know about, is that he had to bribe his accounting professor at Parsons College to pass him so he could graduate. True story. Okay? But yet, we're talking numbers. I'll guarantee you, he knows his Little League win-loss record. No doubt about it. In fact, I'll bet he knows the scores of all the important games that he played. Okay? Not some of them, but all the important ones that he played. I'll bet he knows the scores and probably a lot more about the statistics. The other thing is he might actually forget a meeting that he has tomorrow, but I'll guarantee you he will remember that Shane Kramer blew through a stop sign signal over at the third base coaching box that he put up back in 1980. Guarantee you he'll remember that. I guess what I'm trying to say is Rich has a real passion for kids in general, but especially Little League. I think other people will tell you a little bit about why, but I want to throw that in. A few months ago, unbeknownst to Rich, his daughter ate lunch with him and started asking him about Little League. Well, when you start asking about Little League, and so I'm sure he just thought he was giving her information that Lori was going to have as a keepsake for herself and then eventually Mackenzie, their daughter. And what she was really doing was preparing for the Rich Stokes story, which has been put together, and it will be in the kiosk over there that will tell everybody why this is named the Rich Stokes Little League Complex. And here to give the Rich Stokes story is good friend Steve Yuskevich. Steve?
So for those of you that don't know me, just know that I'm a fan and a friend, and I've been asked to read the Rich Stokes story and perhaps give a couple of additional remarks. In 1955, at the age of 10, Rich Stokes played on his first baseball team, the Kiwanis Cubs in East Brunswick, New Jersey. That team was coached by his neighbor, Brendan Dowling, who just lived down the street from the Stokes family on Woodland Drive. Rich had been playing for Coach Dowling for nearly a year when his father, Paul Stokes, unexpectedly passed away. After that, Brendan took a special interest in Rich, both coaching him in baseball and taking him under his wing as a father figure. Rich continued to play for the Cubs until he aged out, and then he played for the South County team, which included many of the same boys from his neighborhood, nearly all of them excellent athletes. Rich has many fond memories of playing on these highly successful teams throughout his youth. Rich and Coach Dowling stayed lifelong friends until Brendan's passing in 1994. Rich has continued to remain close friends with Tim Dowling, Brendan's son. Rich began his coaching career in 1976 with the Rockwell Minor League in Fairfield, Iowa. His only child, Lori, was born the same year, and Rich said he remembers bringing her home from the hospital and still making it to the game later that day. Rich went on to coach in the Little League Majors League, first as a manager of the Pizza Hut team, and then wrapped up his majors career in 2003 as a skipper of the Pilcher construction team. While coaching in the Majors League, Rich also started pitching and coaching the Challenger League, with which he is still involved. Always hoping to pass his love of hard work in the game of baseball to the next generation, Rich is looking forward to coaching his granddaughter, Mackenzie, in the 2023 Challenger League season. So this is the official Rich Stokes story. Some of you might be wondering, well, it tells a lot about when he was young and he started coaching in the mid-70s here. What in the heck was he doing in between those times? So here's an addendum to the unofficial history of Rich Stokes' professional career. This part of it is official. In 1956, Rich had the privilege of going with his father to a World Series game in Yankee Stadium. It was the game that Don Larson pitched a perfect game. From there, he took on a real strong love for pitching. When he was in Little League, he loved to pitch. And when he couldn't pitch, he played shortstop. So he played for the Kiwanis clubs in 56, 57, and it actually coincided with another career of somebody who had been bouncing around in the minor leagues. And that guy was Roger Maris. In 1957, Roger Maris signed with the Cleveland Indians. In 1958, Roger Maris got traded to the Kansas City Royals. And in 1959, Roger Maris joined the New York Yankees. The Yankees now had a core. They had Mickey Mantle. They had Roger Maris, but they needed some pitching help. Who did they call up? Rich Stokes. The Yankees then, in 1961, Roger Maris broke Babe Ruth's all-time home run record. I'm wearing a jersey right now that says September 30th, 1927, 3:30 p.m. That was the exact moment that Babe Ruth hit his 60th home run. Roger Maris was the MVP in 1961. The Yankees won the World Series in 61. They won it in 62. The slacker Mickey Mantle only hit 54 home runs in 1961, but nonetheless, after that, Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, and Rich Stokes were known as the Big Three. After the 62 season, Rich decided to move on, and he came to Fairfield, Iowa. A lot of you know that I've got a lot of sports memorabilia, and I've been affiliated that with a long time. So there's a particular piece of sports memorabilia that I would like to give Rich right now. It is a frame piece with 3 trading cards in it. One is a trading card of Mickey Mantle. The other one is a trading card of Roger Maris. And the third one is a Rich Stokes rookie card. But Rich, I'm sorry, this does come with a cost. And that is, I know it's your night, but I need you to do me the honor of my being able to have the very first autographed Rich Stokes rookie card. Huh? Okay.
It's official now.
All right. What do you think? 10 grand on eBay? What? All right. I have one other short story to tell, and then I will leave. A few years ago, I'm guessing 7 or 8 years ago, Lori, Rich's daughter, got a hold of me and said, "You know, I really want to do something special for my dad's birthday this year." And I think you've been to Cooperstown, New York, where the National Baseball Hall of Fame is. Tell me how hard it is to get there. And those of you who've been to the Baseball Hall of Fame, it's not the easiest place to fly to. You have to drive a couple hours no matter what airport you kind of go into and all that. So I tell her all the details of what you would need to do to be able to get in there. And then a couple days later, she tells me that Rich does not want to go to the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. Can you believe that?
I've been there.
He said he'd rather do something else. He wanted to go to Williamsport, Pennsylvania for the Little League World Series. Dose was recruited as being his sidekick. So the dynamic duo boarded a plane, went to Harrisburg, flew to Harrisburg, rented a car, went to the World Series, went to the museum, were seen on TV, and they waved to Bill Moore, who was watching the game. And then afterwards, he came to visit me shortly thereafter. There were 2 different reasons why he came to visit me. He wanted to tell me about his trip. First thing he wanted to do is give me something that he had bought for me, and that is this cap that I'm wearing tonight. It's a Little League World Series cap that Rich bought for me on that particular trip. When he was there that day, people that are here that are more close to my age have all probably seen the 10 Commandments, right? The movie, the 10 Commandments. Do you remember when Moses came down from the mountain with the 10 Commandments and he had this glaze over his eyes like, I have seen the Lord, and it was unbelievable. This guy had a glaze over his eyes just like that when he had to tell me all about his particular trip. He had gone to heaven. And that's why you all are here tonight, and that's why he is here tonight. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Steve. And now we're going to hear from one of those more mature little leaguers, the one that blew through the stop sign at third base when Rich trying to hold him up. Actually, that's a lie. That didn't happen. I just made that up. But he told me he played in 1980 and maybe a couple other years. Shane Kramer.
Thank you, and we are going to clear that up. That did not happen. I would never, ever run through a stop sign that Rich Stokes gave me. So, again, my name is Shane Kramer. I played for Rich in 1980, 81, and 82. When I think of Coach Stokes, the first word that comes into my mind is relentless. He has always been relentless in his enthusiasm, in his passion for the game, and in his competitiveness. And don't kid yourself, he's a very, very competitive man. Now, over the years, he has had some good baseball players from my generation. We had a kid named Corey Larson that went to the University of Iowa and played baseball. We had Diana Rep that went to the University of Iowa and became an all Big Ten softball player. But over 99% of us that played for Stokes were not that caliber of player, and we were not destined for that kind of success. But Stokes invested in us as though we were. So when I was 12 years old, I was one of our pitchers. Early in the season, I was struggling a lot. And Stokes calls me one night on the phone, he says, I want you to put the TV to the Chicago Cubs game. I want you to watch this pitcher. His name is Lee Smith. And watch what Lee is doing with his back leg. He pushes off the rubber, and then he takes a step directly towards home plate. And I said, I got it, Coach. And he said, you do that, and we're going to be in business. And that is only Rich Stokes can do. He said, and there's no way we're not going to be in business. You're going to do it. There's no doubt about it. That infectious enthusiasm and encouragement that you always got from Rich Stokes. And the thing about this is, this was not unique to my situation. When you think about all the time and the effort and the energy and the thought that Stokes puts into every single player he's ever had, it's pretty incredible. Now, he is a very, very generous person. Every time we won a ball game, we got to go to Baskin-Robbins ice cream, and we got to get whatever we want, and it was on Stokes. And I do want to point out again that you did have to win. He's very competitive. But if you think about this, he did this year after year after year. His team's won over 300 games. That's a lot of ice cream that Rich Stokes bought for ball players. But it pales in comparison to his generosity when it comes to his time and thought and effort that he puts into his players. Now, if you wanted to ask, okay, Stokes, who's the best player that you ever had play for you? There's maybe 3 or 4 kids that might come to mind. You could say, could have been that person, could have been that person. But if instead you said, who do you think it is, all these kids that have played for Stokes? Who is it that he had the most profound effect on, the most positive effect on their life? Now you've got hundreds of us that would raise our hand and say, well, that's got to be me. Because one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life was getting the chance to play baseball for Rich Stokes. So on behalf of so many of us, I say, Stokes, number one, we congratulate you. This is an honor that is well-deserved. Number two, we just want to say that we thank you for all the time and the investment that you made into us. And the other thing, please know that we are forever grateful that we got to play baseball for Rich Stokes.
I knew that Shane would be able to speak for all Little Leaguers, and he certainly did. The next gentleman, Tommy Brower, is going to speak. But in introducing him, when I put it on Facebook, what was going on, he was one of the first to respond to me, and I might say enthusiastically. And it was 2.5 weeks ago, and I didn't know for sure because I didn't really know Tommy. And I went over to visit him, and it's like, after I talked to him, it's like, he has to speak. So he might come from a little bit different angle, but I want to give you Tommy Brower.
Thanks, buddy. Oh my God. I'm nervous.
Hi, what an amazing night. Amazing place for an amazing purpose. To rededicate this monument to community, giving, and possibility as the Rich Stokes Little League Complex. My name is Tommy Brower. From 1995 until present, I've coached the youth of Fairfield in baseball, football, a little bit of basketball. The vast majority of that time was spent here on these fields, these dugouts, with Coach Stokes. You know, this place has been my sanctuary. It was for many years, where I laughed and smiled. I felt joy and excitement, disappointment sometimes, even shed a few tears from time to time. Today I feel honored to speak on behalf of this place and this man, Rich Stokes. This place is magical, all of it. These dugouts, in them and on these fields, I watch little boys and girls grow up, see new friendships blossom and old ones get stronger. I've seen countless people dedicating their time and their love to the notion that this game of baseball is larger than the sum of its parts and can bring a community together in ways that other activities simply cannot do. From the concession stand to the press box, to the dugouts, to the fields, I've seen bonds strengthen between parents and their kids, teammates and their opponents, coaches and their players, coaches and other coaches. The most shining example of the selfless spirit of giving is my dear friend Rich Stokes. I could talk for hours. I will spare you. You'll thank me later. But I just want to tell you how Coach Stokes first inspired me. Because as a young coach, that's the angle, the different angle that I'm taking here. As a young coach, Coach Stokes inspired me. By the year 2000, I had floated around for about 6 years, assistant coaching various minor league teams, helping some buddies out with their teams, and eventually I found my way up to the majors. And it was at this time that I became aware of Coach Stokes. I didn't meet him, up close and personal right away. It took a little bit of time, but his legend was already established. It preceded him. I knew about him, so I watched and I observed, and I tried to learn from the example that he set. Pre-game warm-ups in the dugout, interacting with parents and players and other coaches, other teams' players. I learned a lot from that experience. That time, I was in my 20s. I was single. I was a little bit wild. I got involved because I was looking for a way to stay in shape, stay involved with the game of baseball, which I am sincerely passionate about, and to do something positive in the community, which frankly is code for stay out of trouble. This place helped me do that. So, I found myself assisting in the majors, coaching opposite of Mr. Stokes. Our relationship was, not much more than some friendly chit-chat through the handshake line at the end of games. But then in 2002, or in 2001, I became a manager of the Dexter team. was my first managing assignment, and got to know Coach a little bit more during the course of that season. Then in 2002, I lost my mother, and my life outside of this complex, outside of these fields and away from these people, began to spiral a little bit out of control. I was lost. I felt alone. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere, much less here as a single 20-something guy with no kid in the league. I just felt a bit like a fish out of water, and I was literally this close to throwing in the towel, and just saying, what am I doing here? Enough is enough. So after a late game one night, I used to always like to try and be the first to be here and the last to leave. That was sometimes difficult with Coach Stokes around, because you kind of had to drag him away too. So one night, pretty much everybody was gone, and I sat over in that dugout over there, and at this time, I was suffering in silence. I was putting on my bravest face, giving 100% to my team and my players, and really taking sanctuary away from the turmoils of my life in this place. And I sat in the dugout by myself. I put that brave face back in my gear bag with my scorebook in my glove, and I just kind of sat there in a little bit of steep in self-pity. And who comes walking down that hill and pokes his head in the dugout because he saw somebody sitting down in there, but Coach Stokes. And this was the first time that I really had the opportunity to sit and chat with my friend Rich about baseball, about coaching, about life in general, just about whatever. And I didn't lay all of my woes upon him. I tried to pull myself together a little bit, but I think he recognized that maybe I wasn't in the best place. And I don't remember exactly what it was that I said to him, but I'm sure I left him with the impression that I was this close to giving up. And what I do remember, I'll never forget the words that Coach said to me. He said, "Tommy, you never have to apologize for what you give." And I thought about that, and those words, because like I said, I was reeling. I really, thought maybe I was taking more than I was giving here, and I felt bad, and maybe I should just go hang my head and sulk. And he said those words to me, and they echoed, and they didn't solve all my problems that night. They didn't fix me, but it gave me courage and confidence to keep going, and to know that it was okay to come here and give of myself to my players and their families, and that meant absolutely the world to me. It became a jumping off point for my healing, and I went on then from that point to continue managing until 2015, eventually with my own son, managed him all the way through. Rich was kind enough to come down out in right field and do some hitting with us a couple of Saturday mornings when the place was empty. Thank you for that. But, baseball is a game of measurables. It's a game of statistics. And like Shane said, and Ron, I think Rich probably knows all of his won-loss records and everything like that. But I also think that Rich understands that wins and losses are not the only way that we measure our success. I think Rich understands that his success is measured in the number of lives that he's touched. And that, wins and losses are great. And I'll put Rich Stokes' numbers up against anybody, and they'll stand up, I'm sure. But it's people like Shane. Where'd you go, Shane? There he is. Is there anybody else here who used to play for Coach Stokes? Stand up, raise your hand. There we go. There we go. You know what? You guys, you are the trophies. He's got plenty of hardware, but you're the real trophies. You're the victories that this man has accumulated. And it's a beautiful thing. And this is a beautiful place, and I'm very honored to be able to speak. The Rich Stokes Little League Complex, that's our trophy case, and you're the shiniest trophy in it. And one last thing. Thank you, Rich. One last thing, Ron, thank you. I'm most appreciative for you letting me speak. And when it comes time to dedicate the Ron Hunter Dust track, or even the Ron Hunter Dust bus barn, come knock the dust off me. I'll be happy to say a few words on your behalf.
Are we done?
No. Okay, you know, there was a guy that kind of paved the way through the board of directors to help rename this facility. He actually was a Little Leaguer at one time, and he actually played, I think, in the All-Stars for Rich. He also has Little Leaguers of his own right now, and I'd like to bring him on right now representing the board of the Little League, and that's Aaron Countryman.
All right. My name is Aaron Countryman. I'm on the board. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that's here. I see so many former players that I know from my time. And I look back, and I had a couple personal stories before I jump in from the board side. I remember as a Lockridge hideout out there that nobody wanted to play Rich Stokes' team. Nobody. But we all wanted to be on the all-star team with Rich, right? So to all of us, it meant a lot to have him as a coach, to be around that, to go and play. So I think that's something that we all can be proud of, whether you were a Fairfield player anywhere around the league. Because if you think about it, that was the weekend ball, the travel ball, everything. There were 9+ teams in the league and in the division. It was hot. Everybody was after everybody for the best record. And now it's not that. And we can look back and say, what a powerful moment. Look at all the guys that are around, that are here for this moment. I also wanted to share a story. As I started my coaching here, kind of navigating from high school coaching to my kids coaching, I'm here on a day, it had rained. There was supposed to be a Challengers game. Who comes walking in and grabs a rake and says, we better get this field ready, these kids deserve to play? He was right there with me making sure. And I was kind of like, it's wet. I don't know what. He's like, we're getting it. And we're going to get after it. And so the things that go unseen that he has done, not only for the players, for other coaches, but that field work, probably doing his work in the concession stand, it is greatly appreciated. As a board, as we looked at this and we started our discussion, the first thing that came out of my mouth was yes, and what do we got to do? 48 years given to the youth of this community. There's many of us here that we're on year 5, 6, 7, and we're like, how are we doing this? 48 years. There is no better feeling in my soul to walk in through that gate on those hot days when it's the 10th day in a row of playing and go, he would be right there with a good attitude and coaching. So many of us can learn from his devotion to the community, to this sport, to the youth, and learn from that is that we can give, and that is our best reward. So thank you to everybody that made this possible. Thank you, Ron. We appreciate you. The board loves that this is here, and we love that that sign is the first thing that everybody will see when they pull into this parking lot to come play at this complex. Thank you all very much.
As a side note, I had a son that played for Rich, and I can only echo everything that everybody has said. Rich does not need to have his credentials read, and everybody out here that ever played for Rich, whether it be softball, basketball, Little League baseball, maybe even some bowlers out there, you have a story with him. You certainly do. So without any further delay, I'm trading places with Rich. I'm going to sit there, and he's going to stand up and talk. You got to come up here and do it, buddy.
Well, thanks for everybody that came. And I'm glad to see a lot of my former players are actually here. I have done 48 years. I really want to do 50. I'm going to hang on for at least 2 more. And we'll see what happens after that. But this place does have a lot of good memories. I was lucky to be here. A lot of good coaches, a lot of good players. And I thank you all for that. I don't thank you for him, but I can't. Well, I was lucky enough, my sisters made a flight out here, one from Massachusetts and one from Connecticut. So we got the family here, which is kind of nice. But it all comes back to my original coach who lived actually across the street from me. He was my mentor. As you know, my dad passed away when I was very young. And he took me under his wing. He was a phenomenal coach, and I tried to duplicate what he did. After we won, we went out for ice cream all the time. And I kept that tradition going. And just a super thing. I've met so many nice people along the way. I've had so many good athletes play for me. I'm a lucky guy. There's no doubt about it. So I don't have a lot to say other than I'm thankful for my Little League coach who helped me. Actually, my wife, who also passed away, she had to put up with cooking meals late and a lot of things going on. But the memories were really the best for all the people that came to the games. I know only 50% of the people were rooting for my team, and that's too bad, except when I went to Libertyville, nobody rooted for me. The whole town came out and was rooting against me. It was terrible. So thank you for all coming. I'm kind of humbled by the whole thing. Thank you.
So, a couple things. First of all, that rookie card that got signed early on in this program, we have 300 of those. And so the first dibs goes to the people I'm going to bring out on the field here in a little bit. And we were going to sign them over there, but if there's nothing going on here afterwards, we might sign them right there at that table. Okay? So you might get in line. Oh, yeah. You get your wrist limbered up. So I want you to come out here quickly. I don't want this to take long. You may have to wave as you come out because I want this to go quickly. I don't want to make this long. First of all, Rich's family. Come on out here and stand beside him. You got his daughter, Lori, her husband, Adam, their daughter, Mackenzie, if she's here. Oh, okay. She's at the bounce house. That's a lot more fun than being here probably. And his sisters, Deb and Pam, who came all the way from out east to be part of this occasion. Next, if you coached with or against Rich Stokes, with or against him in any sport at all, come on out. As you're coming, I'm going to get the next one. No one's going to say they coach to get. Oh, here come a couple. Okay, come on out. I'm not going to announce any names with you. Just come on out. You can wave to the crowd. Okay, next. Everybody except little leaguers, I believe, is what I want. If you were coached by Rich in another sport like basketball, softball, bowling, if you were coached by him in any of those in any way, shape, or form, come on out. Okay, lastly, all you little leaguers, young or old, that were coached in any way, shape, or form by Rich Stokes, come on out. Some of you guys could be pushing 60. And some of you could be quite young.
Finally got my kids to the ball field. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Wow. Yes, Jeff. My greatest pitcher of all time. There you go. First championship. My greatest catcher of all time. There he is. There he is, my 9-year-old all-star defender.
Okay, stay right there because we're going to get a picture of everybody. If you want to slide in a little closer, you people over there, get in closer for the picture. And when you get done, I have cards, rookie cards for you. Oh, let me tell you, they are a hot item. And there also is a plastic case you can put them in. I'm not putting them in there for you. And if you want it signed, it'll be right over there. And he can take his chair and put it over there. Someone else can put it over there. And he can sign it. Okay? Yes. You can. I tell you what. You can use 2 letters on mine. You know what they are. A D and an A. Okay. So that concludes the festivities. Thank you so much for coming out here and supporting Rich. Really appreciate it. And he's so deserving, in spite of some of the things I'm thinking.